Yeah, I do think there's going to be a lot of homebrew, so I will go through everyone's questions. And I've seen a lot of the questions actually while I was setting up the stream, so I do want to address a couple of things. So, will everyone be starting at level 1? I highly doubt it. Very specifically, I believe it was in a Variety article talking to Brandley Mulligan, and this is something that you see in something like, if you're familiar with Keel and Peele, they bring up this particular thing when it comes to structure, when it comes to improv, is you always want to start in the middle of a scene. You don't want to start at the beginning. So for Kill and Peele, when they were doing sketches, they never wanted to start in the beginning of a film to make fun of one. They always wanted to be in the coolest scene in that film. So Brennan's mentioned the same thing with improv, in how you do not want to start, he does not want to start a story at the very beginning. So this is going to feel more like maybe something like campaign 1, in terms of you are jumping into a game that has already been ongoing. So that's why I suspect, is that this is going to be a very lived-in world. There are some relationships that already exist, and you are capable of trying to figure out how those relationships existed previous to episode 1. So that's my impression of that. And that also tells me that people probably won't be level 1. I think they will very likely be level 3 through 5. And really, a lot of the character classes, especially in 2024 core rules, the subclasses don't begin until level 3. So you have a lot of character art that does have very specific connotations. Like when you look at Alex's art, it very much speaks to him being an artificer reanimator. Well, that doesn't happen until level 3. So right there, I'm thinking they're level 3. Let's see, we got, episode 1's airing later tonight, for those that don't know, and this is definitely not the official Critical Role channel, though I did do an interview with them, and I may play that during this stream, because there's a couple of things about that 10-minute interview I wanted to point out. So, again, my predictions are level 3, probably level 3, if not level 3 through 5, for the characters. I think one of the characters is, in fact, a divine creature, or at least has come back from some type of resurrection that was botched. There's going to be there is definitely going to be homebrew. They've mentioned that several times. They've got Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins right there to answer questions. I think, particularly for magical items, Chris Perkins and Jeremy, subclass design, Jeremy Crawford very likely, and then for world rules, Chris Perkins is very good at that. There was oh my god, I'm forgetting. Not Tomb of Annihilation. Was it Tomb of Annihilation? Why am I forgetting this? I shouldn't. It's spoiler alerts, but because we're talking a lot about death in this particular campaign, and this is very relevant. There is a campaign, an adventure that Chris Perkins wrote, where suddenly resurrection stopped. Everyone who had been resurrected through magic started to become sick. So there was this plague that started happening to everyone who had ever been resurrected throughout the entire world. And that was in Tomb of Annihilation. So while that was happening, everyone was getting sick, and that's why everyone decided to go down to Chult, this area, to try to figure out what was actually going on. This is an adventure that Chris Perkins wrote quite a long time ago, a couple years ago. So I think he's going to be probably tapped to think of a nice universal world-affecting, life or death, magical rule. I also suspect, if they really want to keep these stakes up for Campaign 4, they might not allow any resurrections. I think people, when they die, may die. And Aleka Namaman just brought up a very interesting point about Whitney. So Whitney has multiple times said that they are a demon, including the interview. I mentioned this several times. That's important, because if this is anything like the D&D world, or if it's loosely based off of it, what prevents... And again, this is a new world for just Brennan, so these rules may not apply, but they are probably somewhat inspired by. because I've dealt a lot with devils and demons in my D&D campaigns in general, is that there's this realm called Avernus. It is kind of the battle zone between demons and devils, and if you did not have devils, who are very much in D&D kind of the schemers, they're trying to get your soul, they are kind of politicians and stuff like that, demons are very different. Though they might look similar in some cases, demons just want to tear your face off and eat your soul. Like they have just destructive, chaotic machinations. They are not like devils. Devils are like corporate, right? Demons are anarchy. So now, just because of that, it might have been that the devils were lying about what the demons were in fact all about. That could be possible. But it also means that now that the gods are not there, maybe some of the devils are no longer around as well. Maybe some of the devils were in fact kind of deities themselves, and now that infrastructure that was keeping demons from entering the mortal world has now broken down. And tyranny can be one of those. And tyranny is really important for a couple of reasons. Tyranny, as a player, you've got a brand new person at the table who has a fresh perspective on Critical Role, and that's super important. This character has a very fresh perspective on the universe as well, because they're, again, as they mentioned, they kind of want to start in the middle of this world that's kind of felt like lived in and established, but at least tyranny can be us as the audience. I think tyranny is going to be one of the most relatable people for us in a very, very childlike way, because they are this demon from another plane of existence that has just popped up to be part of this world. And Whitney is a new character who has just popped into the Critical Role world to experience what that feels like. So these are very interconnected between player and character kind of situations, and Whitney's character can, as tyranny, can very much be the audience, absorbing the information about Aramán. And that's my theory when it comes to tyranny. And I think tyranny is very important into the structure of the planes as they exist in Critical Role Season 4. So, very long answer. I'm happy to answer any of these because I also, I've interviewed these people, I absorb a lot of Critical Role information and people's dungeon mastering styles, and I have a lot of Lord of the Rings lore also stuck in my head, which is going to be serving as an inspiration for some of this. If I need to slow down these Streamlabs mods, I'm modding by myself, so they're automatically doing this. Let me know. But yeah, I had a Lord of the Rings themed wedding. Actually, my 10th anniversary is coming up October 31st, so that's pretty huge. Yes, it does sound like Dragon Age a bit, and I think Dragon Age is one of my favorite genres, IPs ever, including Inquisition. Thank you so much for the interviews. I was very pointed about that, and I was going to make an opinion video about my own interview, about people's reactions. I may play the interview in this live stream and then give my reaction if people are okay with watching a 10-minute interview again, if you have not seen it. Oh, yes, I will be. Todd Kenrick, are you part of Power Word Meal? Jenny mentioned you were among those who were doing one, but you are not in the prize document. So I've been really sick. I've had what I can only describe as a 2.5-week cold. It probably was some type of respiratory infection, and then I also had a hairline fracture in my foot. So I have not had time to. What I'm going to do is basically sign a D&D book and make that one of the prizes. I'm way behind on that charity, so I will fix that. But do check out that charity that Tyrone just mentioned. Power Word Meal is a huge deal, and I will be offering something up for that. For other Critical Role stuff, so I think we're going to start in the middle. I think there's absolutely a very strong, I think there's a very strong relationship with the main character, who is either going to be already dead when we start the game tonight. Either that will be a familial relationship with Liam's character, or it's going to be an intimate one. I think Liam answered my interview question that, they said, well, Fang is like Smith for orcs. I don't believe that's so. I think I asked a very pointed question that they could not possibly answer. I think Ashley Johnson's character is most definitely related to divinity in some way. So I think Ashley Johnson's character has seen a lot of damage. They may address that in episode 1. But as a character, they may not be a former god, but former Azumar in some way. Obviously, they look very drow. But this is a character who has seen a lot of damage. So you notice that. And we can go through the art right now. Let's just start a slideshow so it's just not me talking. I love this stuff, and I'm thinking about actually doing reaction videos to every single episode of Critical Role Campaign 4, because I am obsessed with reaction videos to films, to TV shows, everything else. I like deconstructing things, and the more I hear about Campaign 4, the more I think that this is going to be a very much a mystery box show. Whose character am I most excited for? Because I am a forever dungeon master, just like Matt, I'm excited what he gets to do. Because I think he's probably playing a battle master, because that's almost like the wizard of being a fighter in terms of you have so much complexity with battle maneuvers. It's very hard for you to get bored. I think Matt is going to be a very complex character. He's going to be not fun for people in some ways. He's going to be kind of like, he's going to be a jerk, a very arrogant knight. I think he's going to be like the opposite of what you typically see a paladin being. And he's going to lean into that, but he will have complexities as to who he is, and that will give him time to have a character arc over several years, frankly. So I am excited for Matt's character. I'm really excited for Ashley Johnson's character, because I feel like they're heavily leaning into the divine and how life and death works. I always like me a reanimator. I was thinking, so with Matt, I don't think Eldritch Knight right now, only because there are no arcane symbols whatsoever in that art. So let's go ahead and start the slideshow. So there's Marisha Ray's character. I think Marisha Ray's character is going to be really fun. I thought they were going to be divination wizard just because of the little spectacles. I think Laura Bailey is going to be an assassin. So I like the image of a fairy just shooting right through your ear and outside the other. I think that's most likely. And they mentioned that they were a stone cold killer, so that's why I think Laura Bailey is playing an assassin. Oh yeah, if you really want to get my attention, super chats always help, because frankly they highlight it. Theory for later 1 to 3 gods are just sleeping. That's totally possible, and that is certainly in line with things like Dragon Age. I think back to Ashley Johnson, I think she's a former god or a former angel. You can even look at the Maiar in Lord of the Rings or the Valar. I think the Maiar, specifically the Maiar, like Gandalf, was the servant of the gods. Gandalf effectively was the 5 wizards were kind of like angels in a lot of ways. So looking at Ashley Johnson right here, half that ear is missing, lots of heavy scarring all on the left side of their body. Matthew Mercer right here, his character as Julian Davanos. There's no arcane symbols here. Nothing's glowing. I feel like Battlemaster. Again, Abria Iyengar, this is pure speculation. Wildfire Druid or something customized for her by Jeremy Crawford, specifically as a Druid. Taliesin Jaffe. Eldritch Knight. Hexblade, really. I think Hexblade Warlock, just because of they're a curator of a museum in Critical Role of magical items, and nothing has more of a tie-in to a magical item than, say, a Hexblade Warlock, whose patron is a magical item, a magical sword or some other item. So I feel like Taliesin, just based off that information, is going to be playing a Hexblade Warlock, which are super fun. Again, Laura Bailey looking like an assassin. I don't know what Sam Riegel is going to be doing. I think he's going to change it up a little bit. So what other questions do we have I can answer directly for like my theory crafting? I think we're going to start at the beginning of war. I think episode 1, there's plenty of history before episode 1 today, and there's going to be a lot of history after, and this is when things really pop off. Not only like maybe even more so than the gods themselves being dead, there's going to be almost like a race. A shot gets fired, and World War I begins. I think that's the kind of situation they're going to find themselves in at the beginning of this game. So I think Liam O'Brien is definitely playing a tragedy bard for sure. I'm very curious. Right, yeah, I'm not quite sure where Robbie is playing. I think, yeah, I mean, I definitely think Ranger. So, are there any? Let's go through a couple of the other things that we know about campaign 4. Um, I've always loved the idea, and I'm similarly obsessed as a Brenly Mulligan is with orcs in Lord of the Rings, and that notion that there are heroic orcs and there was this big that there would be an uprising. And frankly, Rings of Power kind of deals with that concept. Um, Certainly, I think Rings of Power here and there is flawed, but the idea that there are orcs that want to destroy Sauron makes perfect sense. And several times in those books in Lord of the Rings and even The Hobbit, they have motivations. You hear in their dialogue them talking about things they want in their, whether their lives or power or whatever, but they are not one dimensional. They do have some personality. So it makes sense that there would be an orc uprising against Sauron. So I love that as a point of inspiration. Also, we've got polls running. You're seeing the posts right now. They're a little wonky, I think. But we've got multiple polls on Patreon. The only reason these polls are on Patreon, by the way, I'm not trying to drive traffic to Patreon because of this, is Streamlabs won't go past 10. So we've got more characters than 10 characters. And YouTube won't let you do more than 4 for votes. So go over to Patreon, vote. I'm very curious what your opinions are. And if you in chat, if anyone wants to do a super chat, I'll add another poll if there's something you think is important. When Celestial Warlock makes sense for Sam? I do think so. In fact, we haven't delved heavily in as much into Warlocks as I thought. So I think Sam Riegel playing a Celestial Warlock is brilliant. This is coming from Dunde Breck. I think that makes perfect sense. I love it. Because if we are thinking about the fact that very likely Talison's character is a Hexblade Warlock, very much like the idea that Sam Riegel is playing a Celestial Warlock, and that they're getting healing magic in that way. So, because again, Brandon Lee Mulligan has multiple times, in the absence of gods, how do things work? Well, the druids suddenly get a lot more attention because they have healing magic, and they can reincarnate characters. Some of these characters, by the way, may not have been the species or ancestry that you are seeing presented in this art because of druidic magic. They may have changed. So, that's a distinct possibility. No, the 2024 Ranger is not that is not bad. People spin out about this stuff. Now, if you look at Alexander Ward, he's clearly playing a Reanimator Artificer. Again, Travis dodged my question, and when you guys have time, I'm curious what type of Ranger Robbie is playing, and that's not clear to me. Obviously, Luis is playing a Paladin, but he did mention, and I hope my voice doesn't give out because I've been coughing nonstop for 2 weeks. He also likes the idea about the lost gods and how that's affected things. I'm going to mute real quick because I need a cough. Sorry about that. I think flat out Luis has mentioned that he's a Paladin, though. I think there is a whiteboard of Luis actually saying Paladin. So that's what I believe. I'm pretty solid on Travis Willingham being an Oathbreaker Paladin or a Vengeance Paladin. Whitney Moore Tyranny might be playing a monk. Absolutely. I think it goes against type for that outfit as well. I do really suspect that one of them is a god. One of the ones that is like a god in exile or something like that. I wouldn't be shocked. Will one of them ascend? I don't know. I think so. But maybe that the point is that no one ascends. Because if this is a world without gods and they spent, you know, it's been 70 years since they spent all that trouble to destroy the gods, having someone rise up to become a god feels weird. Now, they did mention, like, who will... they constantly are mentioning this in chat, not chat, but in the descriptions for videos, who will fill this void now that the gods are gone. That very much feels like there's a one ring, like from the Lord of the Rings, out there. Or that this character who dies, and they're trying to figure out why, knows where the one ring is, or some type of magical item, or some MacGuffin that will give people power, and that there will essentially be a race to find what this item is, this spell, this incantation, this character, whatever it is. The beginning point will be this Fang character dying and having knowledge that will destroy the world. It's not confirmed that he's a paladin? Okay. I don't know if he's Oath of Redemption. We'll see. That's possible, but he is looking at that amulet. Taconic, do you think specific lore justifying demon being... I think that this is a very... Okay, so this is a good question from Dune de Breck. You know, about whether I think... Do you think there is specific lore justifying a demon being acceptable in the party, maybe hell fought alongside mortals against the gods? Yes, I think that's a really great idea as well. You know, if demons had a vested interest, which they likely would, to destroy the gods, then maybe, you know, relations with the demons are on better terms with mortals. That's totally possible. I would enjoy that in a game quite a bit. So the fact that demons might be seeping into the world could be interesting, or even taking some power. And tyranny could be the beginning of that, for sure. Demons fighting along humans to fight the gods is a pretty shocking idea, but Brennan has also mentioned this is a good opportunity to break what we know about D&D and about what we're used to in terms of concepts of devils and demons and gods and all of that. So I think he's looking to kind of break the mold for a lot of fantasy, like find a different tilt to it. Like I said, Brennan mentioned Lord of the Rings and orcs, and why aren't there orcs having an uprising against Sauron? That's a fantastic idea, and that makes sense. Why not? Brennan Lee Mulligan also mentions that this is a world in stasis because the gods existed, and not very much was allowed to change. So when you think about the fact that he says this, you're talking about a world that's almost like stuck in fantasy realm. So yeah, there's magic and there's clerics. There's no real reason for healthcare because the gods are taking care of everything. You're in this kind of 1950s stasis. Try to think of it in this really weird way. This super controlled kind of environment where gods exist and there's no innovation, there's no change, and suddenly, boom, there are no gods. And so does that mean, kind of like the Renaissance, our own Renaissance, that there's this evolution in art, in drama, in theater. There's suddenly this industrialization. There's these artificers who now are reanimating people. I think with the gods dying is the catalyst for sudden, rapid advancement in different worlds. Todd, give us your hottest take or guess. I think my hottest take is that no one can be resurrected. But that could be really boring because I think they want to explore how the afterlife actually works, right? I think they want to go there. I think we're going to lose some characters for sure. And I think there might even be like a survivor-like aspect to this. Well, my hottest take, my absolutely uninformed, craziest take, they could switch from D&D to Daggerheart in the middle of this campaign. That's the wildest thing that could happen, actually. And that's not narrative, and I don't know if that would be good for the narrative at all, but that would be pretty wild. No, we don't know what the level is, but I really think it's going to be level 3. So, again, my point about the gods is, if you live in a world with gods and clerics and lots of structure, There's no reason for a lot of things to change. But if suddenly there is rebellion, the gods are dead, there could be this explosion of art because the stasis around the world no longer exists. So you're looking at people making clocks and siege engines and trains, and you suddenly need artificers to build things that you didn't need built before. You're having suddenly an artificer reanimator to create these other types of entities. You're looking at the druids again. The druids have way more power than they used to. So now people are leaning a little bit more towards nature in some cases. So I think that's a very interesting idea that Brendan is, going to explore, and I think that's super fun. It's the kind of stuff I love to mess around with as well. I had a campaign for 3 years where they had to fight Asmodeus and deal with the 9 hells, and Asmodeus let the demons invade the prime material plane just to show the gods and mortals how important devils were to, the entire multiverse. Just for a month, not even a month, like a week or a couple of days, Asmodeus had the devils not fight demons and let demons into the mortal world. So, I think no resurrections. Yeah, I think revivify with cost. I think we're also going to see a little bit of stuff that we see with Game of Thrones when it comes to resurrection magic. So if you do get revivified, you will be scarred. You will have a hole in your heart, part of your face missing. There's going to be a cost because, again, Brendan has mentioned that there is going to be a difference between having a deep connection to the planes, right? Like having a god that basically is translating you to the plane of chaos or the plane of life or whatever you want to call it. You no longer have that thing that's translating that information or that energy to you, to your benefit and with guidance. So there is going to be a more chaotic stream of that. So whether that's necromancy magic, which actually healing magic is technically necromancy magic, that's going to affect you very differently than something with a guiding hand. You're basically getting magic. You're getting divine magic from a fire hose rather than a spoon. Death Becomes Her is a very good example of that, yes. Todd Kenrick, who's the most likely god in disguise within the party, in your opinion? I don't think it's a very good disguise, but I think Ashley Johnson. I think Ashley Johnson potentially has the scars of a god, or a celestial entity that was in the war and lost. How long do I think the first episode is going to be? I'm terrified because I am, I think 3 to 4 or 5 hours. I don't know. I am curious, people in chat, if you are interested in reaction videos or breakdown videos the next day. Because I feel like this is going to be more of a mystery box show than we've ever seen with Critical Role. And I love reaction videos to shows. The problem is this requires like a massive time investment and also a financial investment, because to basically do a cut down of that stuff is nuts. So we got a super chat again. Thank you. These really help me, actually. So I appreciate the donation. I also appreciate just being able to read. Do you think that everyone will be playing a homebrew subclass, or will there be some players handbook subclasses? Yeah, there's going to be some homebrew subclasses, but primarily it's going to be 2024 players handbook classes, for sure. I know that for a fact. Todd Kenrick, I'd say Luis's character was invaded by a god and tried to flee into his body, or failed to a greater degree. I love that. I think that's fantastic. I think it's wild speculation. But Luis has said he's interested in that kind of connection. So, if you imagine him being a paladin where the divinity has hidden within him, that's a hot take. Yeah, breakdown videos are pretty boring. I think reacting emotionally to something, but I don't want to do like a 3-hour reaction video necessarily. Yeah, reaction videos are a hell of a time sink, and I'm one person, so I would probably hire a video editor just to handle those. Todd Kenrick, do you think undeath or necromancy will be more prevalent? I do. With no more gods, and the afterlife is less certain, and oblivion is more likely, which people may fight to avoid. Yeah, I think necromancy will be more prevalent in different ways, and I think Alex's Ward's character as an artificer reanimator is very. And by the way, could easily. I mean, everything that you see in his art kind of speaks to him being an artificer reanimator. That said, could be a necromancer actually. If I was playing a necromancer, I mean, ultimately, who is Victor Frankenstein? Is he an artificer or is he a necromancer? Because artificers have limited ability to create undead or anything else compared to a necromancer. So I would feel, if I was going to play Victor Frankenstein in a game, though I'd love to play an artificer, I would play a necromancer instead. And I think they're going to be playing the new UA version of the necromancer, or one that Jeremy Crawford designed himself. Oh, I couldn't live stream because, yeah, I wouldn't live stream necessarily. Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Todd Kendrick's so happy to see you streaming again. Love having you in the TTRPG scene. Always brightens my day. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Dario. Yeah. It's definitely been a rough time for the last 3 months, by the way. Being laid off and constantly seeing your work get published out there. But that's the deal, right? That's every creative. So I'm not complaining. It's just you get an element of FOMO. Seeing your own content and your own plans being enacted is the natural thing to feel. And, you know, you're trying to pay the rent. You get nervous. That's why I have the Patreon here. And because YouTube doesn't pay any money. Neither does Twitch. Todd Kenrick, it would be the best if the host a cooldown for this. Oh, that's very kind. Yeah, cooldown would be fun. But I think they have their own cooldown, right? Please don't make the video long. We got another $5, £5 super chat. Campaign 1 and 2 were great. Campaign 3 you found very boring, and I couldn't stick with it. Do you think Campaign 4 will return to form? I think Campaign 4 is going to be its own thing. I think it's going to be very dynamic, and the thing I'm most excited for, well, I'm excited for a lot of different things in Campaign 4. I want to be very clear. But Brennan Lee Mulligan is going to get to toy with something that I used to toy with, because I also did kind of this West Marches style show or game. And that was, you know, when you're watching Critical Role, for the most part, and I used to do like a cutscene at the end of each of my episodes when I had a live streaming show. That was like the villains talking about some nefarious plot for about 5 minutes as kind of an epilogue to each episode. We as an audience together, all of you and me in chat right now, will be more aware of what is happening in that game than any player at the table. Because each of those groups will not be informed as to the decisions and choices that the other people are making. And once we get to that point, it will feel like you're watching a film, a movie, or reading any book, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with Shadow and Bone is a good example. And I don't mean to make fun of Shadow and Bone, but I don't love Chosen One narratives and shows, and Shadow and Bone has a very strong The Chosen One narrative. However, they also have a story that follows these really shady schemers who are the Crows, and I love them, and I love their plot line, and it's so interesting, and it's the best. And I recommend you reading those books. I also recommend you watching the show, because the actors on the schemer side of that show, it's the best example of, I think, how you're going to basically be consuming Critical Role Campaign 4 is Shadow and Bone, for sure. Dancing between this royalty, army, chosen one narrative that's going on. You know, we've got magical powers and sorcery over here, right? And then Shadow Bone has just a bunch of real shady dudes, thieves, assassins, and all that stuff. So Six Crows, yeah, Six Crows is a fantastic book. Love it. I have sometimes I need the use of a cane. I have two crow canes, so I empathize with the main character in some ways. So I have a crow head skull cane that I own, and that my wife gave me. I think it's like solid steel, and I also have a regular crow cane, and I'm using a cane now. But yeah, I think that. So what my point is, it's called dramatic irony. So if you watch Star Wars or Shadow and Bone, what you were experiencing is you're getting to see like the villain side of things, or you're getting the hero side of things later. In this case, these three tables could be actively trying to solve a problem against each other. They could be at odds, and that's going to be delicious for us at home because we will know what's going on and they won't. And I think that's going to add a dynamic energy to the show that we haven't had before. Dunabrek, Todd Kenrick, it's great to at me because then I'll actually see it highlighted. How often do you think the players will hop between tables? I wonder how high range teleportation will function with this. I think I'm very curious how high fantasy you get with Magic. I don't know how often this is going to happen. I do still suspect that Liam O'Brien it does have an X within the party, and that there are some cross relationships that they're not addressing right away. I would enjoy character videos from Todd Kenrick as we know more about them, like an episode dedicated to each character as well with their class and etc. Yeah, absolutely, I can do that. That sounds fun. Todd Kenrick, do you think that with so many PCs that one can be working with Bren to turn on the party down the road as a major plot twist? Absolutely. I love working with a dungeon master on maybe an overarching story. Again, someone else mentioned, do you think the party starts with a traitor character? Yeah, I do. I mean, this is the opportunity to set up stakes in ideas that are really huge with a massive table, and not everyone's going to be a hero. And not everyone's going to get along. And not everyone's going to live. So, amongst them, with the fact that this continuously is starting to feel like a mystery box, what would I do? Yes, one of those players I would have be a betrayer. Whether they are starting out as a betrayer from the beginning or slowly evolve into that later on, I would 100% do that. Because this is 3 to 5 years. Wow, $10. Thank you, Jason Latito. I love Brendan Mulligan's worlds. I'm just curious if there are any plans to put out books, game aids for this stuff from Critical Role Season 4. Would love a world book based off these creations. I think it would be naive, Jason, for us not to think that is exactly what's happening. So, I think that we are going to get a campaign Season 4 book, and including subclasses and different spells and everything else. You've got Chris Perkins there. You've got Jeremy Crawford. Why not make a book? Makes sense. So, yes, I do think we'll get a campaign for Critical Role campaign book. I'm almost 1,000% saying yes. So, and that's not with me having any internal knowledge. That's just me. It'd be that would be leaving something on the table. Todd Kenrick, do you think that's not how you spell my name, but that's totally understandable. It's a Welsh name. It's totally weird. Do you think they will do reincarnation more often than revive? I have never been reincarnated as a character in D&D, and I'm sad about it. I think Revivify will be very much on the table. It'd be interesting if Revivify works and any type of other resurrection magic doesn't, other than reincarnate. I think that would be interesting. I think you have to get to someone within a minute, or they're dead. They're gone forever. Or you have to seek out a druid and fully reincarnate. I think that's interesting as well. Thank you again for the donation. Crit Bait. Super chat. Are you going to watch the Warriors, Seekers, or Schemers more? I love Schemers. I am not a political human being, and I was asked recently, what type of person do you ultimately think you are, and I think paladin. Though I always question whether someone thinks they're a paladin, because of the self-righteousness. But I love seeing schemers and smugglers, Han Solo types, Loki, that kind of stuff. So I'll like all of it, but schemers I'm really big into. And sorry, let me scroll up. I think with the Seekers, though, Seekers are the big questions, the really huge stuff, like metaphysical questions. And I love that stuff as well. That's why I like things like Control, or high science fiction, fantasy, things that ask you about the very nature of your world. So it's going to be really between the Seekers and the Schemers. I think Warriors are going to be fun, because you're going to see a lot of dice get thrown down, for sure. So, we got another one from Riago. Thank you, CryptBait99. From Riago, we have, do you think we will see every group table in every episode, or will there be episodes dedicated to specific groups? So, initially, we're going to see everyone together all at once, and then they're going to move around the tables. So, I think for the first 3 or 4 episodes, it's very much establishing this entire world. And then everyone's got to break off. And this is great for everyone, because it gives them a break. So that'll make their lives a little bit easier. So, yeah, they're going to mix it up with the parties. I'm curious. Tal would be a very creepy paladin. Yes, I would make paladins weird. I also believe I like playing... Sorry. I'm going to mute real quick. I also play paladins very petty if I can. But I've always wanted to play a creepy paladin, because I think there's something creepy about having an oath and getting magic from that oath. To believe so certainly that you're right, that you create magic itself, is a weird thing. So, yeah, I think it's going to be weird. These are all great questions. Folks, I love this stream. This is so fun. This is why I've been more interested in doing this. Every week we talk about Critical Role. So if you're interested in that as well, let me know on Patreon. Also, yeah, keep on filling out those votes. I'm just curious what your thoughts are. And no, I've had like a lung thing for 2 weeks. I got sick. I've had a cold twice. By the way, if you're a creator and you've been laid off and you get a fracture in your foot and you get a cold twice in 3 months, that is a nightmare. Todd Kenrick, this is coming from Hup. A Loki-like character for Sam. I do like that his character is named Wick. A trickster ex-god that is hiding as a plain Jane. Yes, I think Sam playing a god and being super reserved as Sam Riegel's personality. If Sam is playing this very reserved, very nice, subtle character for enough episodes, we will slowly lose our minds collectively as people watching that show. Or a cult leader. So I think we've kind of figured out a couple elements about Sam just from chat alone. I love the idea of Wick, with Sam Riegel being a cult leader. And I also love the idea of him being a warlock celestial. And by the way, you can play a warlock as if they stole magic. They didn't necessarily make a deal. I play my warlocks as if I stole something. I did that for a celestial warlock myself, to play an evil character who was a celestial. David Hodgkins, I think the trick is that Sam is going to play this season is that there's no trick. That would drive me nuts. I couldn't handle 3 years of Sam Riegel just being I don't know if he's capable of it, actually. I think he would have to diverge. Do people want to watch the brief interview I did with the cast? Has everyone here in chat seen the interview I did with them? Because I do ask some pretty pointed questions, and if we do play it, I highly recommend you watch people's micro expressions while I'm asking those questions. So, I mean, if you want me to play the interview for it's about 8 minutes, watch them closely and void comp this, because you will see hesitations and deflections. So, if so, they'll allow me to get more coffee, and I'll be right back. Oh yeah, everyone watched it. Okay. Yep, just don't go anywhere. I will absolutely be back. So we're going to play this really quick. I'm going to mute briefly. And if you do a super chat at me to make sure I get back to it and if I missed it. So also let me know if the interview volume is okay for everybody. So, all right. In 3, 2, 1.
These cosmological, theological questions and more can be sorted out by words or by blades and fire in the coming years of Aramán.
I had the chance to sit down with Dungeon Master Brandley Mulligan and half the cast for Critical Role's Campaign 4. We talked about characters and the setting of this world. First off, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this interview. I'm really excited for Campaign 4. I am interviewing each and every one of you. I am going to be asking, the first person I'm going to be asking a question of is Brennan, but then I'm moving down the list of everyone who is here because I want to know about your characters. And if something is too spoilery, I'm willing to send you money directly. So let me know how that works for all of you. For Brennan, really quick, I'm very curious. You're talking about the divine recently having died. Are there relics? Are there entities left over? Whether they're like angelic beings or are they maybe even in the cast that are remnants that are slowly fading from the fallout of that event?
Ooh.
Hey, Todd, I'll have to answer your question with a question, which is, we know in Ahriman that the deities have indeed fallen, the seven shapers of long, long ago. But if the deities die, can it truly be said that all divinity has died? And that's a cosmological question that our characters are going to have to wrestle with themselves. I don't know. I feel like some druids out here would have a bone to pick about divinity being fully defined purely by the intermediariness of godhood. These cosmological, theological questions and more can be sorted out by words or by blades and fire in the coming years of Aramán.
I like the idea of all the druids high-fiving it right after the gods are destroyed. They're like, yay, now everyone's coming to us for answers. It's going to be great. This is our big time to
Time,
shine.
baby.
One
Yeah.
spoiler is that on the largest mountain in Aramon, there is a gigantic post-it note that says "Gone fishing."
Oh, nice. Oh, that's sad. That's very sad. So I'm moving on to Travis. Travis, you're Harry again. I just want to point out, were you so
Always
scarred
Harry.
by playing a Goliath for 3 years that you must be furry in every single show after this?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, art imitates life, right? And I don't know about you, but the older I get, it's just bare city, just all back.
It's maintenance.
Yeah, it's just terrible. No, I thought about playing a lion folk character before and backed away sheepishly, and that's not going to be the case for campaign 4. I'm going to play that which would destroy me in real life on an allergen basis. So I am confronting my fears, I am packing away my histamine blockers, and I am ready for death and love. It just depends on what Brennan has an appetite for.
How important is the fact that you're holding an amulet that is also of basically a lion and the cord is broken on that?
Boy, Todd, you've gotten in too deep into that character art, my man. I will say that it's probably as important as it has the potential to be.
I'm just saying, it feels a little like Oath of Vengeance Paladin potentially, or Oathbreaker, or you have someone to kill. I don't know.
All good bets. The board's at Vegas. Welcome your money.
Perfect. Whitney, you're the only one I don't know from this entire group that I've not been in a show with or interviewed.
Hey, Todd, I'm Whitney.
I know you because you're in a Dan Heatwave video that makes us laugh horribly in our household, which is also probably the best Zillow ad ever made. It's a missed opportunity for them. I keep on hearing that you are pure chaos. What was the inspiration for your character, and how has that been fun to like shock this group?
I keep hearing that too. And frankly, I don't know what that means because I'm just out here following my instincts. And just because I talk about bodily fluids a lot, I don't know. People just, they have reactions. I will say my character Tyranny, she is pretty fresh to the world.
Okay.
And so she doesn't have a lot of knowledge on the way things work. And she's learning a lot by observing the people around her and developing the relationships and seeing what kind of little stinker she is.
How
She
is
is a little stinker, I'll say that.
how is she fresh in the world? Like literally as in youth or from somewhere else?
Literally because she is from a different plane. I think that we have, can I confirm real quick that I can talk about race? Because it came out in a video, but yeah.
There was a video where you said demon and not tiefling. So
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did say it, and it's out in the world, so I'll say it. Yeah, Tyranny's a demon, so she's from a different plane of existence, and she is partying in Aramán, and here to have a good time for a long time, Brennan. She's here for a long time.
I'm getting has-been hotel energy already.
It's not up to
Um,
me. It's the dice, Whitney. It's the dice.
The
It's
dice.
not. I'm
It's
not
your
here to
time,
enemy
Whitney.
you.
It's your time.
To kill you.
Liam, Thjazi Fang, also having the same last name of a very important character at the very beginning of the game. Can you talk to whether this is a familiar relation of some kind, or is it a romantic
They're
one?
probably two. They're probably two unrelated fangs. Probably.
Okay.
There's a decent amount of people in the city.
All right.
It's bound to happen.
Fangs like Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. That's fair. For orcs. Okay. I'll accept it. Sam did mention that you had a variety of X's. You are obviously playing a very theatrical character, I get the impression. You love the theater. It sounds like you've got a subclass, maybe from Taldori's guide, but like, how many X's do you have? Is it possible one of the other players at a different table is one of your X's as well?
Which of the players is not my ex? Is how you should be framing it.
Perfect. You sidestepped that very well.
I have designs on all.
Perfect. Louise, your character's a complete mystery other than pretty eyes. Like, what was the motivation for your character?
The motivation for my character?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I really was curious about this world that Brennan presented to us, where the gods have fallen, and what one of the many things that was talked about is what afterlife looks like in a place where this has happened. And so there's a part of Azune that I think has been pondering what that means, not just for himself, but for those that have come before him and those that will come after. And there's something about a sunset that to me can suggest a passing on, the end, but a sunset also looks exactly like a sunrise sometimes. So that's kind of where all that sort of came together for me in my mind.
I love your characters. Ashley Johnson, what are you up to?
What up? What up, top?
You're tall again. You're tall again, and you look like a drow, and I get it, but you are heavily scarred. In a world where suddenly there are no gods, and who knows what's going on with the afterlife, you look like you've either died and come back, and there's like a cost to that, or maybe you were even some kind of divine entity. I have so many weird conspiracy theories. I'm not really even asking you a question, but what did you really want to explore with this character? Because they seem like a mystery box.
Great. Great. Love that. I wanted to create a mystery box. So I'm glad that that has been achieved. Yeah, I think Valus is not fresh in this world. Trying to figure out how to dance around it. Same with Luis. I was very sort of intrigued by this world that Brennan had put together and the absence of the gods and what that can mean. Yeah, I just Valus is has been a fun character, and I'm still discovering her, still finding her. But there's definitely a lot to her story because she's old. She's old.
Perfect. Thank you.
I don't know if I could say that. I mean,
Good tease,
I know
AJ.
that.
Good tease. Good
Okay,
tease.
okay.
Man, when she walks into that door frame and gives herself that giant shiner in episode 1.
Yeah.
Loses an ear.
Yeah.
On the banana peel.
Doors.
Ashley has a dexterity of 3, and so we said, like, logistically, she should be covered in wounds and injuries.
Yes. Yeah.
Banana peels, rakes, ball bearings,
Yeah.
There to trip on, I will step on it.
How? I did miss Taliesin, and I feel terrible, so I want to dive in. Your character seems incredibly messy.
Definitely, it's an interesting middle ground. He can somewhat inhabits a place socially between Percy and Molly. What I can say, I will say a couple things. His face does move a bit.
Okay.
It is not static. And the character is based on a few things and has a few major points, but I'll say the easy ones now are therapy, obviously, a particular piece of music that inspired this character, and a love of finding parts of Dungeons and Dragons that I feel are broken in where the rules meet cosmology, and then needling it really hard, angrily. So those are definitely 3 good points for this character that don't spoil anything.
Brent, how important, and actually all of you, how important is death to this game? And also, well, and it's a 2-part question: death in this game, but also there's this very specific irony you get to work with, Brennan, that I'm a little obsessed with what you're going to be able to pull off. For the first time, I feel like the audience might know more than the players all the time because they're watching all the episodes, and I assume the players will not be. So you're really like leaning into dramatic irony where this one group has no idea they're screwing with the other group possibly, like, and I can't wait to see how that works in, like, there's the possibility of animation, but also within the show of like, we're going to be in on the joke more than ever as an audience. Are you leaning into that?
I think that is, but by the way, that is something that we are excited to lean into because we have to be. And I don't think that's particularly new for Aramán. I think you're right that there's an increase in dramatic irony based on the separate tables and the fact that PCs are not going to be their characters will literally be splitting up to cover more ground, right? That being said, that's a reality of actual play writ large. I mean, the moment that you're publishing source books about the campaign world you're playing in that elaborates on things not seen on camera, all of a sudden, the audience can see more than you can see. I remember there was a big part of why I wanted to set Calamity in Avalier and in the Shattered Teeth is I was talking to Matt about the weight and majesty of Exandria, and I was like, where have we not been? A, so we can again cover more ground, but B, so I don't accidentally step on any of your beautiful lore. Like, what's a place I can blow up and no one's gonna get mad? So I feel like the audience, uh, that reality is a reality of actual play and of creating worlds that are this beloved, is that fans do seize onto them and absolutely explore things. I mean, this happens if you're a dungeon master, your players are doing this already, which is looking at lore you've made and coming up with better and cooler explanations that you have. You're a DM and someone's like, the stolen shard of so and so. That must be from the ghosts at the bridge the night before. As the DM, you're like, the ghosts. Yes, it was the ghosts that did it. That's a much cleaner storyline than whatever the hell I was going to do. And then you do actual play, and it's even another wrinkle on that, which is audiences doing stuff like that, where they'll see connections. Because again, I think that I know this whenever I'm fortunate to get a chance to play, is that playing, you've got a million things and you'll miss big clues that an audience will not miss, man, because they are strapped in. Their level of observation is just so heightened by virtue of being fully dedicated to like breathing in the world of this like rich fantasy. So yeah, totally.
A huge thank you to Brandley Mulligan and the rest of the cast for being interviewed right before Campaign 4 launches. If you want to support more video content like this, like, subscribe, ring the bell notification, leave comments about your theories about Campaign 4, and also if you want to support more video content like this, you can go to Patreon. That actually helps fund and give us the funding to actually fly around the country and conduct interviews and afford gear and stuff like that. That really helps us out, and we can make more video content because of Patreon. And also, we create playtest materials that are coming out very shortly as well. Thank you so much for watching. I am back. Yeah, so don't go anywhere. We are still going. I saw some interesting mentions. Thank you for taking a pause. I do like the idea of Talison's character having a magical mask that they got. That's an interesting one as well. I was thinking Hexblade Warlock, but maybe somehow the mask is tied to the sword as well. So, oh, thank you. Yeah. So what did everyone pull out of that interview? Go and let me know. I'm really excited for this campaign. This is probably the most excited I've ever been. And for context, I've been interviewing Matt for years and the cast. I was there at the finale for Campaign 1, which was absolutely wild. I was in the studio, so that was a different experience. By in the studio, I mean that we had we were very specifically off to the side in a room that we were watching it through a monitor so that we weren't disturbing the live broadcast in any way. So I think there's going to be a wizard, honestly. I still think there's potential for there to be a wizard in here. So I think you might have noticed, very specifically, I think Travis was very deflective and very charming in his deflection when I mentioned, him holding an amulet with a broken string. I think whatever I was asking him was clearly going to be a spoiler, for sure. Todd Kenrick, yeah. Don't forget to @ me or super chat me. That way I'll be able to reply. With Ashley saying her dex is a 3, can we expect a manual stat rolls as opposed to fixed? No, I don't think it's actually a 3. I think they're just making fun of how... I think it was an ongoing joke that Ashley Johnson's character only had damage because they had a dex of 3. I don't think she actually has a dex of 3. I think they were trying to deflect from the fact that Ashley's character has had so much physical damage. Aaron Todd Kenrick, I don't know, it's not a question about the interview, but do you think that will have a full table combat or two on the opening episode? Ooh, that's hard. So this is an interesting question because I had to deal with this. I did it was about 14 or 15 people. I did a role-playing game, and we had combat. And it was what we called the Christmas episode. Everyone was in town, and we had this massive extended table, and I ran a game. And when combat broke out, I had 2 assistant dungeon masters, who are also players, who I trust, to actually run combat in those instances. So we were effectively running a 3-part game. And so this was actually Star Wars. So we had folks that were in one ship. We had folks that were on the planet, on the ground, in a, lasers, blasters and lightsabers type combat. We had someone up above, and then we had people in a Star Destroyer. And so we had 3 people running combat for each scenario, all having an effect, ultimately, on the final game. So how Brennan would handle that much combat, I don't know. It's very hard to do in D&D. D&D combat is very slow. It can be quite slow, as you know. Once you factor in reactions slows down the table even more. Or if you factor in people not completely 100% knowing their character, slows it down more. So, group combat of like 14, I've seen it done, but I've seen it done with people on deck. And I was actually at D&D in a castle very recently, dealing with this issue. And they brought 2 different D&D groups together. And what they absolutely made clear to everybody is, you need to do your rolls ahead of time. You need to factor in your damage ahead of time, and you need to give me those numbers. I don't know that that's entertaining for people outside to watch, and I doubt Brendan would do that because people like to see those numbers go up. But it was very fun to play D&D and just have boom, boom, boom as a player, each person having the effect on that game. So there are ways to do it. But are they fun to watch? I don't know. Alan Wilkinson is asking, I wonder if anything Brennan has managed to sourcebook before we'll sneak into Aramán's sourcebook. Getting PL0 characters from the Divergence and published rules would be nice. So nothing, Aramán is its own thing, so I don't think anything from any of that stuff will pop in necessarily, unless it's a generic subclass that gets kind of worked into the world of Aramán. Tellison said the mask moves, and it's an artifact that is latched onto his face. So he does kind of want to make sure people know he's not Warforged. The fact that the mask moves is interesting. Like I said, it could be an artifact, or maybe he's divine in some way. I have made a video that covered D&D in a castle, so I do have that on the channel. Are there theories on classes? Yeah, we got a lot of theories on classes. And I'm going to start popping stuff into polls on YouTube, or possibly Patreon if they're more complex. So we do have lots of theories in this video. If you want to scroll earlier into the stream, we do break into things. Okay, so let's go ahead and run through it real quick. Laura Bailey, I think, is a rogue assassin. Said that a stone cold killer. Sam Riegel, current theory, is a celestial warlock that is a cult leader of some kind. Robbie Damon, some type of ranger, Beastmaster Ranger. But curious about what the deal with the paw is. Alex Ward, very clearly an artifact. An artificer, reanimator, or a necromancer potentially. Travis Willingham, likely Oathbreaker Paladin or Vengeance Paladin. Luis Carrazzo, I think, is a Paladin as well. He's charging up a smite of some kind. Very linked to the Divine, I think, but also still could be a cleric. Liam O'Brien is probably playing the Bard Tragedy domain. Bard College of Tragedy, who I believe is very related to the character who dies at the beginning. Ashley Johnson could be a lot of different things. I think a former Celestial, Shadow Sorcerer, Grave Domain Cleric, very likely. Matthew Mercer, I think, is a Battlemaster fighter, just based off the fact that there's no magic at all in that shot. Abria Iyengar could be a wildfire druid of some kind, but also remember, some of these can be custom subclasses, so just keep that in mind. Taliesin Jaffe, very likely a Hexblade Warlock. They do own a shop or a museum where they actually, protect magical items, so that makes sense. Whitney Moore could be a monk. Could be a lot of things. I think a monk would be fun. They are acting pious and holding their hands like this. Marisha Ray, I thought Divination Wizard for some reason because of the 2 little spectacles that are hanging from their actual hat, as if their hat itself was a divining rod. Laura Bailey, again, back to Assassin. So I've got a couple of comments here. Tuck Henry, any theories about color schemes that seem to be shared between some of the characters? I don't have any theories on the color schemes. Hup, I think one difference that we'll see with Brennan doesn't let players get away with as many role advantages as Matt did. Example is with Laura and Marisha taking Matt into with advantage. We'll see. I think this is going to be a very, live or die kind of show. That's what I suspect, especially with this many players. Yeah, I really think Marisha Ray is playing a diviner. I also think it's against type because Marisha Ray has played a lot of combat type characters, But if Marisha Ray is playing a character that is kind of like a very sturdy, I think someone you can rely on, who's all-knowing. Like, she kind of mentioned, I think, her mother and grandmother. I think that also kind of links to someone who's all-knowing, like a parent. So you have that little crystal that's hanging off of Marisha Ray's hat, their character's hat. Then you've got the two little spectacles. That could be a diviner wizard. What's more reliable than that? Notice the marks on Tyranny's shoulder match Wikander's. Yeah, I don't know. I think Tyranny's very new to the world, so I'm not sure. I mean, Todd Kenrick, I noticed that Sam and Whitney's characters have the same color scheme and motive on the clothing. Yeah, there is a similar motive because so people, what do you think about the sun pattern that we keep on seeing again and again and again? I'm not being paranoid about this, am I? Like, we see this on multiple characters. Again, Laura Bailey's going to fly right through someone's ear canal and out the other end to kill them. I swear that's going to happen in this game as an assassin. Yeah, they either know each other or know the same god. Yeah, the sun symbol keeps on showing up. Does that mean that it is absolutely divine? Because she has a very pious look about her as a demon. So Whitney has her hands kind of together. It's a kind of semi-religious looking outfit. Playing a demon who is religious, who is worshiping a god or some kind of celestial entity is definitely a choice. So that is something to consider. So let me go ahead and try to do a chat. Start a poll. Start a Q&A. I don't know how. Okay, interesting. We're going to learn about YouTube today. We are doing it right now. Is Sam's character Wick? I'll put it in quotes. Let's vote. And we'll go ahead. Let's make this informative. All right, the vote is up. We'll see what percentage of people in chat think that Sam Riegel may be playing a Celestial Warlock. That's pretty fun. Todd Kenrick, do we think that these could be revisions of old divine theologies where the sun itself is seen as a god? Yes. In fact, I mean, when you look at actually religion in general in the world, I mean, the sun, everyone's worshipped the sun from every part of the planet. There's a couple of weird things that you will see within like the history of humanity. I don't want to lose this other message, but so there's a couple of fun things that exist, and I'm obsessed with the Ouroboros, for example. But virtually every culture has worshipped the sun. It's a giant glowing fiery orb in the sky. It's bound to happen. And another thing that has shown up in almost every culture is a snake eating its own tail. So you will find the Ouroboros symbol in Norse mythology, in Mayan mythology, almost every corner of the globe. Someone has thought of a snake eating its own tail. Just fun facts. Divine Soul Sorcerer is extremely important. Especially, so who is saying Divine Soul Sorcerer for Sam? I have 100% played a Divine Soul Sorcerer that was essentially a cult leader. I have done this because if you look at the 2014 rules for Divine Soul Sorcerers, they are disruptive to the norm. And this is why this comes up again and again. Like, this actually is in the description for that subclass because clerics have resurrection magic, but Divine Soul Sorcerers can do the same based off just their charisma and their innate magic. They flat out say in that subclass, this could be very disruptive to religious orders and other clerics, and that they may be hunted because of their powers. So right now we're at 53%, 52% that do not think that Sam is playing a Celestial Warlock based on our current conversation right now. I'll leave the chat up for a bit, but we'll see. Have I missed any super chats? We're at 566 people. Go ahead and share this if there's like Reddit threads or whatever else. Why I can still talk. And before this very first episode is going to drop, let's see. Yeah, the gods died 70 years ago. That's true. Some of these characters might have been around for it. They may have been around for the death of the gods. Boy, it is really neck and neck on this poll for Sam. We are at 51%. I think we've had it up enough. I think people are pretty divided. Oh, 50%. Wow. Just back and forth on this Sam poll. Todd Kenrick, I played a Divine Soul Asmar, who served as the spark to return a fallen goddess from the time of trouble in Faerun. I like this idea, and this kind of brings up a very specific point, is they mentioned the remnants. So we've talked about the remnants of the gods dying 70 years ago. And we talked about what if one of these people is one of those divine gods, or what if they were one of the Asmar. And it's also been brought up like the One Ring from Lord of the Rings, right? So Sauron's ring is out there somewhere. Maybe this is the soul, the item of soul power. What if the One Ring is not an artifact? What if the MacGuffin that people are searching for isn't even a god? It's one of the characters. One of the characters has a spark in them that is crucial to the future of the universe, to the very world or the very planes of existence. Having one of the characters be that important is interesting. Todd Kenrick, can you speculate more about the inspiration Brendan is drawing from Lord of the Rings? Yes, I can. Happy to do so. Again, Lord of the Rings themed wedding. So, just going to dive into this for 1 second for those Lord of the Rings fans. I do want to make sure I get this right about one thing. Okay. So, very specifically, Brendan Mulligan is a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings, as I was raised on this stuff. He very specifically talks about the orcs, and he always felt like the orcs should have had some type of revolution against Sauron, which makes sense. And the orcs in Lord of the Rings were tortured by Melkor, who was Saruman's boss. In the movies, they say it was Saruman, but really it was Melkor. Melkor tortured the elves, and they're goblins / orcs. They're interchangeable words. Really, that's how they came about to create an army. So that's how orcs happened. The idea that orcs would not, at some point, try to revolt against Melkor or Saruman is inherently silly and just less interesting. Obviously, you're writing a giant epic and fantasy novel, and you just need a big bad army. But even the orcs in the Lord of the Rings, when you read it, will have conversations, they'll have arguments, they'll have desires, they'll have thoughts, they'll have all of these things. The trolls, the stone trolls, have depth of some kind. So the notion that would not happen is kind of silly, especially in the context of a role-playing game. And when you also look at, Rings of Power is actually kind of addressing a noble orc revolution. So I think that's kind of like a lot of the inciting reason the gods themselves die. Because even if some of the gods were good, well, the gods were not beneficial to existence itself, to the sentient creatures that live on the world. And in a way, if you imagine Lord of the Rings, where a lot of the gods were very beneficial necessarily to the free peoples of Middle-earth, these gods were not. They were almost all Sauron. Maybe there's one god that was good, that was like Sauron. So maybe it's a flipped version of Lord of the Rings in that sense. So that's where some of this inspiration for revolution is coming from. And the notion that there was this high fantasy moment in Lord of the Rings. And we kind of see this happening when you look at Lord of the Rings. There was a moment where Balrogs were whipping dragons into battle, right? That's how high fantasy things were. The battle between Melkor and the rest of the rest of the gods. But slowly, magic began to fade. And that's part of the reason the elves started leaving for the Undying Lands. We're getting into lots of deep Lord of the Rings lore, but Lord of the Rings is a very much post-high fantasy realm where magic is fading from the world. And hobbits are increasingly actually getting taller with or without, Ent water or whatever. And things are kind of homogenizing in a weird way, that because Lord of the Rings is meant to be kind of a pre-story to the real world. That was the whole point. So, as we get to that point for Lord of the Rings, we got a few super chats. Oh wow, thank you everybody. So Lord of the Rings was supposed to be kind of like this prehistory for Britain and stuff like that, and that was the point. And that the idea, this notion that some of us used to be hobbits, and then eventually we got tall and became humans. So if the gods have just been overthrown 70 years ago, maybe many fair things are fading, right? Or the planes themselves are eroding. There's no more entry into the afterlife as there once was. These infrastructures have died. And so that's the inspiration for this world, which also means almost immediately after, even, before Saruman was delving into some pre-industrial type World War II-ish kind of technology, even before Sauron was defeated. But spoiler alert for the Lord of the Rings, which you didn't see in the movies, Saruman, after he is kicked out of Isengard, and after Sauron is also defeated, Saruman is so petty that he goes to Hobbiton. He goes to the Shire, where this all began, which is kind of a point about World War II and war in general in the world, is that eventually evil will reach your doorstep, no matter how removed you are, right? No matter where you live, it will find you. So Saruman, even though the war is over, when they return to the Shire, when Frodo and Sam get there, Saruman is living there with Wormtongue, and they have industrialized the Shire. There's, pipes full of smoke, and there's a windmill, and there's all this kind of industrialization of the Shire, and it's kind of choked with smoke. And it doesn't look like this idyllic area at all that in the movies. It's almost been destroyed. And so that is what happens. And I think that is kind of the inspiration for where our jumping off point a little bit will be with the 70 years after the gods die. Suddenly we'll see this massive explosion of possibly technology, right? We will see a renaissance. And when you look at these characters, look how heavily inspired a lot of this art is for kind of Renaissance outfits. Even the set for Critical Role has kind of an, I don't know if it's an Italian-like look, but like this armor right here, this is not like a 14th century knight. That looks like Renaissance to me. I think we're done with the poll for Sam. That's a very long answer. I hope that made any sense at all for those watching. But it looks like people are pretty conflicted right now in terms of how they feel about Sam Riegel's character. So 51% say no, he's not a celestial warlock. 49% say yes. I have trouble seeing how Laura's character fits into the rest. I think Laura's character is going to be one of the schemers. I think Laura's character is going to be a rogue assassin, very good at going into a situation, spying, and assassinating in some pretty disgusting ways when you think about Ant-Man and the Wasp, and a character that is so small that they have a button on them. She is described as a stone-cold killer. She looks very happy in that art. But every description is that she is not. So I think Thimble is amongst the schemers, obviously. And I think something has caused Thimble to be this angry and this upset. Maybe many fairies died during this war. Something may have happened to her folk that has caused her to become this rogue assassin and to become a schemer. What is that interesting show that was on Amazon Prime? Carnival Row. Carnival Row is very good about taking fantasy and industrializing it, essentially. Todd Kendrick, what if Laura is actually a rune knight? Laura, I think that stuff is always hilarious. I played a goblin rune knight. By the way, a giant goblin just looks like a troll. So interesting and fun, but I know that Laura is playing a rogue. I think Laura has completely confirmed that she is playing a rogue. So, Todd Kenrick, I think Thimble's happiness killer dichotomy could be an apathetic view. Yeah, on life. Yeah, I agree. Laura was very great. Yeah, Carnival Row. I agree. Carnival Row is amazing. Thank you for the super chat. Laura could be a scion of the 3-2 from UA. Yeah, 100%. Though Scion of the 3 is very specific to Forgotten Realms. It would give them a little bit more extra magic and a little bit different choices to use. So, could still be assassin, but you're right. There's a lot of different... And again, remember, these can be custom subclasses. Valus. Yeah, I'm not sure. Also think Laura is Scion of the 3. Interesting. I'm a little surprised. I just went right to assassin. Oh yeah, so I didn't get everyone's responses to the interview that I aired. But here, what I did notice is Travis was extremely deflective and comedic in the way, and was watching me basically ask very pointed questions he could not ask. I think Ashley Johnson got very nervous about the questions I was asking, even though I was kind of asking a lot of different questions that were leading about Ashley's character. And Ashley did provide that her character is very, very, very old, and left it at that. What other interesting reactions did we get? I think it was very clear that Talison's character had a lot of theories that he did not like or agree with. Not that he didn't like them, but I think he saw a lot of chatter that he was playing a Warforged and didn't want people to think he was a Warforged. So that's what I think about that. I still am holding out hope that Marisha is actually a divination wizard. How long do Drow live? They can live quite long. Yeah, absolutely. Drow are elves. So, dark elves are dark elves. I think in D&D, possibly around 500 years. So they would have been old enough to see the gods die, and being an elf, having been there. So it's a good point. Not divine folk, maybe no divination connection at all. Possibly, just because, as elves, if you think about, again, back to Lord of the Rings, Elrond wasn't explicitly in the books actually at the battle against Sauron, but in the movies, they show him. He's like, I was there, Gandalf, fighting Sauron. So, Ashley Johnson's character could have been there and been a cleric. And, that's interesting, because if Ashley Johnson's character fought the gods, or fought on the side of the gods, by the way, because it was a revolution. But if not all these characters were fighting against the gods, she would have been scarred in that battle. Or having divinity ripped from her as a cleric, potentially. So that's a possibility as well. I think this is, of all the characters, she has the most interesting character arc because it invites so much speculation. Yeah, the thing about Sam is he doesn't look like he's not happy. He looks extremely pious and potentially very dangerous. So, that's something to note. Do we have any other questions in chat? What's a good poll for me to drop in right now? I got it. Is Mag a divination wizard? Let's go ahead and try that. And by the way, thank you for everyone being on the stream. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. All that stuff matters. It's very hard to make money off YouTube. Consider going to the Patreon. That's how we make video content like this possible. I have no day job. This is my day job. Totally not terrifying in any way, by the way. However, I am very happy to get to hang out with a bunch of critters and talk about Theorycraft Critical Role stuff. This stuff makes me incredibly happy. What do we think about Liam's ex-spouses? He gets very cheeky about me mentioning his exes. And Sam's the one who in a video mentions his exes. I still think members of the party are his exes. Or very key characters. And I think we're going to run into that in episode 1. I could be wrong. James R. says, what do you think about the possible apocalyptic subclasses for UA? I don't think this is quite an apocalypse setting, so they may not fit, but they could have seen them and then wanted to use them. Totally possible. But I don't know if they fit specifically for this environment. I can't believe the actual episode is coming out tonight. It's going to be a lot of lore to absorb in Theorycraft. So 52% actually do think that Marisha Ray's character could be a divination wizard so far. That's pretty impressive. And let's go ahead and check into the Patreon voting and see what information we've got there. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and give the current results. I don't know if they're public. Wow. All right. Which character... This is a poll. The link is in chat. Which character... Which Critical Role Campaign 4 character are you most excited for? And right now, 37% is Matthew Mercer playing Sir Julian Davenos. I think we're just happy to see Matt get to be a player. So that makes a lot of sense. Totally get it. I got 2 other polls in here. Which character do we think is going to be the most chaotic, and why? That thing's being a little weird. Most chaotic character right now is going to be Whitney. No, it's not. Laura Bailey, people still believe, as Thimble, 31% is going to be the most chaotic, followed up by Whitney Moore as Tyranny, and then 22% voting for Matthew Mercer as Sir Julian Davenos. Not a huge surprise there. Laura has a chaotic history, for sure. And then which character do we think is a former god or tied to the gods the most? We're looking at 37% Ashley Johnson. I may have put my finger on the scale on that one. But I think all of us agree that there is a deep connection there. So once again, we've hit 50. Wow, we are really conflicted as a group of chat. 50% believe or don't believe that Marisha is playing a divination wizard. That's hilarious. I love it. Yeah, I believe the orcs are 100% the main characters of lore, keepers of lore within this universe. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and close down. I'm going to close the poll down pretty soon for Marisha, but we seem pretty 50-50 on a lot of things with these yes and no's. I think I need to diversify these pollings a little bit for people. So people have to break apart a little bit more. What else from the chat? What else from the interview? I think Brennan's very interested in. I'm curious how broken the magic is going to be. I'm very curious about how the world magic is altered because of the lack of the gods. So I'm going to go ahead and close down the voting there. We got 51% yes for Divination Wizard. Alan Wilkinson, off topic. Did you hear about the certain Final Fantasy Grounds con game featuring Laura, Jen, Hope, Adam, and Alicia Marie? And not really. I think I heard a little bit about it, but not much. So, yeah. Yeah, I think I did actually hear something about it. That was like a couple of days ago, though. Do you think that Travis is, Grace Ellen Miller thinks that Travis could be playing a monk paladin? That's a hard build. Possibility. I wonder how much they're going to delve into multi-classing. So. All right. Do we have any other lingering theories or ideas hovering around in chat for episode 1? I do still believe that this is going to be the one where things pop off. I think also when they showed the trailer for this, we have kind of a cityscape that looks very similar to the poster art that we see for Critical Role Season 1. Critical Role Season 4. That city that we see in miniature form, I think that's where everything kind of falls apart. And I think that happens in episode 1. I think it'd be very daring if we have combat with that many characters. I'd be curious how they resolve that. So, yeah, Travis is playing a paladin. It's, again, maybe it's custom, maybe it's Oath of Vengeance, or Travis playing an Oathbreaker. Who do I think will get the first D20? That's his rolls. If it was Matt Mercer, it would blow my mind. It'd be pretty funny. Mathematically, let's think about who would get the D20. Like a fighter. A fighter makes a lot of rolls and would eventually get a D20. So, a natural 20. But the odds on that are nuts. Todd Kenrick, with the absence of the gods, do you think it possible mortals might start approaching epic level spells? That's a very good point that was just made. And thank you so much for the giant super chat. Holy cow. So we've got an interesting thing I do want to address. James R. says, in the absence of the gods, do you think the possibility for mortals to start approaching epic level spells? In D&D, very specifically, and actually just mythology in general, Metatron in mythology, ancient mythology, actually was a wizard that was ascended to angelic hood at one point. And then within D&D itself, the gods were kind of the level cap for wizards and clerics and everything else. If they didn't want people to get past level 20. They wanted either to fight you or take you away or ascend you once you hit level 20, because you became a global interplanar threat. And this is the case for things like Race and Magere and Dragonlance and a bunch of other books like that. You get too powerful. So in the absence of the gods, yeah, 100% think that people could start getting past, something like level 20 or finding epic level spells. Now, will that happen in this campaign? No, but it's an interesting plot point that magic gets out of control because there's no breaks anymore. And again, Brendan does mention several times, hey, here's the deal. We no longer have these checks and balances. We no longer have this translation of divine magic. So when the gods are absent, it's no longer a fire hose. It's no longer a spoonful of water. It's a fire hose. It's uncontrolled. And we have a very, very nice super chat from CritBait99. Todd, do you think Brennan will make this a little more hardcore, like no resurrection or limited healing, Todd, do you think Brennan will make this a little... repeated. So, and I will start replying to these directly also, yeah. 100%. Do I think healing will get limited? Maybe. Ultimately, I think it's going to be more likely that resurrection magic is the thing that becomes limited in the show. Or that resurrection magic has a cost. I mean, can you imagine if you lost a level because you were resurrected? I would hate that mechanically for a player because you'd feel like you're getting left behind. But the fact that there would be a cost, I think, is really important. Any thought about any of them being barbarians? Or will this be our first barbarian-free campaign? Tyranny could be anything. I have no idea. Tyranny could be a barbarian. I'm not seeing anyone that feels like a barbarian, though. So it's a good point. And I think they are skewing towards a more Renaissance-flavored campaign. So I think maybe, barbarians might have been overlooked. I do like the idea of a skinny barbarian, though. So I've always wanted to play a Dampier who was a barbarian, probably Path of the Beast, and but thin, so no one knew he was a barbarian. I always think a skinny barbarian is creepy. I think we need a poll for the barbarian. I think that's wild speculation for a poll. Yeah, Marisha could be a barbarian, 100%. I still feel like the Divination Wizard is up for grabs. I can't wait to find out tonight, honestly. I don't know if we're going to learn everyone's classes tonight. I think we're going to start mid-game in a lot of ways. Oh, yes. Yeah, I don't remember if you lost a level when you were resurrected, but there was level drain from vampires and wraiths and stuff. So undead were really particularly nasty. Todd Kenrick, maybe Brennan Mulligan can bring back old school wraiths? Yeah, 100%. Level drain was nasty business. People hated undead. You did not like messing around with them. Todd Kenrick, do you think Brennan hinted in the interview at there being demigods left living amongst them? I think so, yeah. Because a demigod, when you think of Greek mythology or even Roman mythology, could be a half-god, like one of the gods had a kid. So that would, overthrowing the gods wouldn't constitute one of those characters not existing anymore. So one of the main characters could be a demigod for sure. Or demigods could be, in the mix. And a lot of better angels, possibly too. A lot of unemployed angels would be something very dangerous to deal with. Todd Kenrick, I just noticed that Liam's character has a small blue scrap of cloth that matches Whitney's and Sam's character's cloths. 1 second. I feel like it's natural that Sam's going to have connected tissue with Liam. They're best friends. And Whitney would be interesting as well. Just checking the rest of the questions. Yeah, typically in D&D, if you become undead, you can't become resurrected. I've never much cared for that rule. It's been kind of a loose rule, really. Todd Kenrick, do you think this could be a low power setting and the Shapers actually just were level 20 characters are close enough? Wow. What a Planet of the Apes like weird reveal that the gods were never gods. That the gods were in fact just people at level 20. I think that would be amazing. I don't think that's where we're going. But holy crap. Yeah, Path of the Giant Barbarian could be Thimble. But again, I believe Laura mentioned she's playing a rogue. So I think that's already in a video. But Path of the Barbarian, Path of the Giant Barbarian Fairy is hilarious. How far out? Oh, we're 5 hours out for the full show. And again, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. I'm glad you're as obsessed about the details as I am. You were right. There is a color scheme there with purples and blues and stuff like that. Todd Kenrick, yeah. What are the real gods like? I don't think so either. It would be fun. Yeah, I know. I think the gods being actual just people is very the Yellow Brick Road, right? The wizard at the end of everything. Funny. God, what a plot reveal after 3 years that there were never gods. Interesting. But the fact that the gods are dead would be less interesting if they were level 20 the whole time. But yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I'm a little worried how long this episode's gonna be. I'm not gonna lie. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna just scroll through chat real quick. All right. Oh, got a lot of comments. All right. Do you think this could be a low power setting? No, we already read that. What if it could be? Yeah, it would be funny. Yeah, chat just went bonkers on me. That's all. Liam just said it's too long and not long enough. It's gonna be long. People are gonna be up till midnight. I think it's gonna be a late one. Todd Kenrick, what do you think binds the characters from the first episode? It's clearly Thjazi Fang and about his assassination, or rather his execution. So I think Liam clearly has a connection, but I think, okay, this is a very good theory crafting. What Thjazi Fang, why is that important to every single person? One character has to be important to everyone. We know why it's good. Clearly the connection between Liam is specific, but he has to know something about the current political situation. He has to know something about all three tables. So, Thjazi has to know something about the gods. He has to know something about these two political factions. I'm forgetting their names off the top of my head right now. So, I think the political factions is the schemers. He knows something very important to the seekers. And he has to know something that would cause outright war and affect the martial classes, the soldiers. So he knows something so important to the function of this world, to what happened 70 years ago, to the current political factions, and to what could affect war on the planet, in the world of Aramán. And that's what brings all the characters together. Everyone has to care. A soldier has to care, a schemer has to care, and a seeker has to care. He has to have something that hooks all of them in. And that's interesting because how would it hook Whitney's character, who's brand new to this world, as well in? Why is Whitney here? Why is Tyranny the character in this world? And why would Tyranny care about this execution? It's interesting. Yeah. Sorry, that's driving me nuts. Now that you mentioned it, yeah, you have to have. Do I think the Aramán setting would be released both in Daggerheart and also D&D? Possibly, yeah. I mean, why not? Oh, who do I think? I think Matthew Mercer's character is primed for a character arc, going from evil to good. I think any of the paladins going evil is always pretty typical. We're gonna have to see. I mean, we've gone pretty deep into speculation for a show that we've only had character art for. I think it's very purposeful that we've gone character art for Critical Role ahead of time, because they wanted to start us theorizing and understanding the world of Aramán this deeply before it even begins. So I think they sent us character art and invited that speculation and have given us so many kind of primers on the world ahead of time, because they want us to be able to just start right away. Things need to start moving. I think it's going to be a lot more like Campaign 1 in that regard. I think Matt and Talison's character might be traveling together already. Possibly. Todd Kenrick, do you think the Lord of Hell was one of the killed gods? I think that's a possibility. Yeah. Because if you're counting an Asmodeus type figure as a god, and they die, well then that's just chaos on multiple planes of existence. So if no one's ruling in hell, then what is the long-term effect of that? Is that why tyranny is suddenly on the prime material plane? So I think it's a good theory. Thank you. I was so surprised this many people wanted to hang out, actually, and talk about Critical Role. I'm not surprised. I just mean, I thought it was going to be 19 people myself theorizing about episode 1, so I appreciate everyone joining. Yes, 100%. That's a lot of characters to introduce around multiple tables in one episode. They need us to do the heavy lifting in some ways for them. Does the war between demons and the devils even exist in Aramán? We don't know. May not. You know, that's very specific D&D lore and may not be applicable to this setting. I think Matt is playing a blood hunter again. I don't see any magic. I think that would be fun. Boy, it's easy to die as a blood hunter, I gotta tell you. We'll see. Demons and devils aren't in the same faction? No. So in D&D, I know this is weird. Okay. Story time. I've explained this before. I'll explain again. In D&D, devils are very much like the corporate lawyer, we're trying to get your soul, sign a contract type of evil, right? That's who devils are. They're litigious. They're lawful. Demons, and you can see a lot of A24 movies about this, demons just want to eat your face. Their motivation is the absolute chaos and destruction of the universe. They are full of hate and spite and anger and rage and then this devouring hunger. So devils, very stable type of evil, manipulative, lawful. Devils are like just a horror show. Now, that doesn't mean that's how this is in Aramán at all. But that's the distinction between devils and demons. And devils and demons do not get along at all. In fact, devils in one of the 9 hells, Avernus is the only thing keeping demons from entering the prime material plane. The devils are the ones who are actually constantly at war. It's called the Blood War with demons, to prevent them overthrowing the multiverse. So devils and demons don't mix. Thank you. Thank you. Always happy again to the Blood War. I've spent a lot of time in the Blood War. But the gods being dead, this is coming from Dunde Beck. With the gods being dead, what type of typical Faerun-based fantasy fiction would be the most powerful normally with divinity largely gone? God, in Faerun? Dragon. I think Faerun would be dragons. Yeah. Todd Kenrick, do you think any specific character is at the table that we won't expect them to be at? I always feel like Marisha loves combat. What I'm curious is if the classes don't make as much sense. Like, can you imagine a divination wizard but hanging out with the soldiers? Which makes perfect sense, by the way. Like a war wizard. Actually, wouldn't you want divination on your favor as a kind of group of soldiers? Like, what defines being a soldier? So, Todd Kenrick, are we sure the wolf that is Robbie's companion is not his animal form? Yeah, so I get the blood hunter lycanthropy of it all. It's weird that one of the paws is translucent, right, and spectral. That's the only thing that indicates to me that it's not true. And then why are we doing a specific piece of art so you don't think he is himself also the wolf? Or a moon druid. Still could be true. Robbie Damon that could be his wolf form. They both have the scratches, the whole deal. Outfits don't match perfectly, but yeah. Anyone predicting the ships already? I'm... Boy, a lion guy and a fairy would be weird. I don't know. I don't know what the ships are in this necessarily. Todd Kenrick, Matt porting Divination Wizard into a fighter subclass could have been a wild thing. I think Divination Fighter Wizard is nastiness. Now you've got me thinking about a 3-level dip into Divination Wizard and then a Eldritch Knight fighter, actually. Wow, that is some nasty... Where you know you're going to get the hit. You know you're going to hit them with a sword. I kind of hate it. I actually hate Divination Wizardry. I'm not gonna lie. It bores me. I've played it before. I don't like knowing what the role is. I like wild magic sorcery. I like chaos. It's coming from Daniel Powell. Whitney said that her character is a demon, and some people will be upset about that. Yep. Combined with Brendan often writing his own lore, I suspect we can throw... Yes, I think we can throw out a lot of D&D cosmology. Absolutely, as always. James R. Todd Kenrick, speaking of litigious devils, I love the idea of mechanist-trained infernal lawyers. Yes, I do too. Anytime I can get Modrons and mechanists to have a conflict in hell, it's always hilarious. Let's see. I really do think Matt is just a fighter. Yeah. Divination, Eldritch Knight, Halfling would be a complete nightmare of a character, for sure. It's a lot of control. Alright, we've been scrolling through the art for a while. I like keeping it up, though, because I think this art is so intentional in every single way. Yeah, the blue cloth wrapped around the belts. I mean, the sash is interesting. That is a good point about the character. You really got me watching the cloth now on people. So that we keep on seeing the sun. I don't know what's up with the horse cane at all with Abria's character. I also wonder if this art was drawn with the intention of it being assembled together for their tables. As if all of this character art was actually drawn So it's assembled very easily in one big group for the schemers, the soldiers, and the seekers. Has anyone tried to assemble the artwork to see if they kind of match together in profiles very well, or portraits? Like if it just like looks like a good image. Like has anyone been theorized like these are all the soldiers and then taken that art and shoved them all together? Yeah, enjoy your birthday. Tell your sister happy birthday. Daniel Powell. Oh, absolutely. Thank you for joining the stream. I appreciate everyone who joined. We'll probably be wrapping this up because I'm going to lose my voice. But I appreciate all of you. And let me know again in the comments, in chat, you know, what kind of other Critical Role 4 campaign chicanery you want to see me up to in terms of content creation. I'll go ahead and put it in chat. What are you most interested in? Let's start a poll. Some air from me. I'll put in short recaps, reaction videos, theory reaction videos, something, oh, live streams. All right. I think that's a good poll, actually. That would be probably helpful. So the poll is, what are you most interested in after episodes air from me? Ooh, I don't like how I worded that. It looks like a mess. I can't edit it now. Anyways, you get the gist. So, you want a recap breakdown? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of oranges. We got a lot of purples. One second. All right. So obviously purple is a big theme, orange is a big theme, and blue is the theme. So purple, orange, blue. The only one that's not 100% on there is Matthew Mercer's character, but he's definitely got orange hints. So those are the color combos that we're mainly seeing. So I'd say the orange are the soldiers. Hexblade Warlock, Taliesin Jaffe, Belair. I think blue are the Seekers. That's the demon. Tyranny. It's the teal color. So I think, yeah. I think teal again. Marisha Ray. Could be a divination wizard. That's the Seeker. Laura Bailey. Did I say green? Blue again makes sense for the Seekers. All these characters who are blue look like Seekers. There's no red at all with Robbie Damon's character. There is teal though. Purple again, Alex Ward. The schemers. That implies Travis is a schemer. Yeah, it's a hard connection. Interesting, though. If Travis is not playing a martial character, but he is a paladin, but he's a seeker, I mean, a vengeance paladin would be a seeker. Or possibly a schemer, yeah. I don't think I'm going to solve this right now during the live stream, so. Travis as a schemer would be absolutely wild. Oh, Thimble does have teal in her wings, so a seeker. Interesting. If red or orange is a soldier, then Abria Iyengar being Circle of the Moon would make sense. Circle of the Moon is a very combat-focused subclass for Druid, so... Or Wildfire Druid again. Wildfire Druid blasts. Yeah, Travis, I still agree, is a Vengeance Paladin. I can't unthink about this color now scheme. It's melting my brain a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the color being tied to the Great Houses, I think that makes more sense. I don't think they would make it so basic. So, I agree. Still, fun to theorize before we know anything. Boy, I can't wait to do the video where I'm wrong about every single thing that we've been talking about today. Sorry, I'm just looking through chat. All right. Oh, wow. Whoa, whoa. Thank you for the... Wow, thank you for the super chat. Folks, those super chats really do help, by the way. Please check out the other videos on my YouTube channel, by the way. We've got some great interviews about Daggerheart, interviews with Chris Perkins, some deep dives, by the way, like hour-long interviews. Thank you, Drunken Donuts. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. That's completely huge. It's gotta be midnight. I think I would do a stream tomorrow. So, depending on where the voting... Live streams that are all above. 39%. Okay, it seems like that's the predominant... Do you like hangs like this? Like a hangout on a Friday where we just talk about the previous Critical Role episode every Friday? I think that's pretty chill. Doesn't require a lot of video editing on my part. Certainly. A lot of thinking. Yeah, no, you're right. We don't know how the tables will split. So right now we've got 39% that's pretty strong, asking for just a live stream to kind of chill. Oh, lots of yeses here. Okay, people like that. Yeah, I think that's great. I think, plus we've got like 500 people in here. That's huge. Just to hang out and kind of theory craft. I think you're understanding how my brain works. I do this all the time with TV shows, by the way. So, by the way, if you want me to absolutely wreck some shows, including Peacemaker and Gen V, there are some people that haven't picked up on a lot of weird hints in those shows. Okay, yeah, we'll look into doing, so it's at 39%. I think we'll look into doing a Friday live stream covering the previous Critical Role episode, kind of as a hang and theory crafting and stuff like that. I think that'll be fun. I'm very curious about how Liam's going to play a bard. Yeah. You know, when I think about Bolaire and the mention that the mask actually can move, that being a patron, and then it kind of reminds me of the Loki mask in the mask. I'm curious if there's a connection there. And that sword is manifested through the mask. So maybe the sword itself is not magical is interesting. Yeah, I got weird. I got a vibe off of Whitney's character that was a little Has-Been Hotel myself. I watched all of Has-Been Hotel recently. Yeah, I think going against type for the demon character will be very likely. Todd, I could see Liam doing a lot of prose and soliloquies for sure. Yeah, I'm curious how that will play on the live stream, but yeah, it could be interesting. Liam loves that stuff. Townsend looks a little Shadowrun. Oh, that's very kind. I mean, 500 is huge to me, so. I'm surprised there are 446 viewers still here. Thank you everyone who's hanging out. I'm happy to hang out longer. That's a tremendous amount of people. Let's go ahead and check out on the votes on the Patreon page. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Polls will always be biased. See who is going to be Chaos. Oh, Whitney is hit the for the poll now. Whitney is at 32% above Matthew Mercer, so that is a change in the polling, and above Laura. So that's interesting. That's a pretty dramatic change within an hour, or even 30 minutes, really. Let's go ahead and go down. Who will be the most chaotic? Yep. Huge change. Who do we think is connected to the gods? 43% say Ashley Johnson. Let's read some of these answers, by the way. Why Laura? That's why. For chaos. Exactly. What? Whichever anti-capitalistic flash in the pan DMPC Brendan introduces to the characters first. Very true. Which character do you think is going to be tied to the gods? Ashley Johnson at 43%. Wick is a former god. Sam likes twists and complications like that. Yeah, okay, I can see that. I feel like someone implies that a character is impossibly old, so I get Withers vibes. Interesting. And then Peel, the character that everyone's most excited for again, is 35%, getting to see Matt just get to actually goof off and play. Bria's characters often be a slow burn. And then from the interviews, it seems like Julian Davos is going to be an absolute disaster of a person. I love that. Yep. Good poll. Polls do good. Got good information out of that. All right, 40%. I think we can end this poll. Oh, overwhelmingly. Theory reaction videos and also the live stream. Short recaps are not necessary. Definitely not short reaction videos. Okay. Just going to look through chat again. Yeah. Okay. Looking through any comments that were missing. Oh yeah, and ads are running, correct? here and there, I assume. All right, I think I may wrap up the stream because I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, and I've got a long night watching Critical Role. I don't care how much. Let me know what everyone else thinks. Unless you have any other pressing questions or theories, I'm really excited for the show tonight and seeing what they got cooked up. But we will wrap it up in about 10 minutes. So, oh, perfect. Yeah, good. Well, it's nice to get paid. So, I didn't even drink my coffee. If I drink coffee after 2 o'clock, I'll be up forever. It's really always exciting to start a new campaign. I think Brennan's doing something really ambitious and fun. I think he's uniquely capable of handling a campaign like that. Brendan actually, from what I've heard, actually runs a lot of D&D games that are not live streamed, while also live streaming a bunch of D&D games, doing it professionally. So Brendan has an absolute love for storytelling. And this is, again, this is conjecture based off things I've heard about Brendan. I don't know Brendan. I've hung out with Brendan in brief intervals, and he was in a show of mine a couple of times, actually. Wow. Okay, yeah, we have done a couple of shows. Weird things that you forget. But I think he has such absolute love for storytelling and game mastering, and I think his mind is perfect for 3 different tables at the same time, and it gives people in that core cast and all those players time to breathe, frankly. It can be, I've done a 3-year game. It's really hard on you. So, it's pretty intense. What episode runtime do we think? I think 3 to 4 hours. I do. I think it could be 5 hours. They could do a full 5-hour episode 1. It may be hard for them not to with a cast that size. All right. Well, everybody, for real though, like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you're notified every time. Think about doing the Patreon. You can also do like, I think you can do exactly Patreon, but on YouTube as well. But every little bit helps. And if you can't, that's totally okay. I'm also broke. Just viewing and just chatting is a value you have no idea. And this has meant a lot to me. Getting to hang out with all of you and talk about Critical Role. I don't get a lot of social interaction. I am an introvert by nature. So getting to hang out with people and talk about D&D is a lot of fun for me. I like to think about theories. I'm kind of stuck here at home with a cracked toe, recovering from a cold. So this kind of interaction always means a lot to me. And I'll be completely honest. Every time I go to a convention, I run into critters. And you all are the sweetest people I have ever met in my life. And I am always shocked that you even know who I am at any point. There are some people who just broke my heart at I was at C2E2, just a bunch of lovely cosplayers. There were people at Gen Con this year. One person made me cry because they said such lovely and nice things. And I think it's very easy to forget how overwhelmingly positive this community can be, and how lovely everybody is, especially in person when you're at a convention. It just blows my mind. And to be around that kind of enthusiasm and excitement and love, really kind of, it's like a squirrel, like burying food. Like you could just kind of hold on to that energy all year long. So I just want you to know I appreciate it. Thank you for showing up in chat. And I'm the D&D interview guy. Well, not anymore. But I'll keep on interviewing people and the D&D design team if I can. and obviously everyone at Darrington Press. So, yeah, I just wanted to say, super excited what you see do next. I'm super excited to see what I do next too. But right now, this is the thing I am doing, and I love doing it. I would, like I said, I think I gave myself 2 days to feel sorry for myself after the layoff, and then I had to get back to it. I think I'm a little sorry for myself every day. Let's be the FOMO and everything else that creeps in. Some days you feel like you are absolutely going to kill it and you're going to do fantastic, and then and some days you feel like you're not going to make it. You don't have enough viewers, so you never know. But that's just kind of the anxiety of being a content creator. So keep that in mind when you ever watch any content creator out there on YouTube and Twitch. Like, it's a stressful life. Not that, the constant threat of being laid off is not stressful, but this stuff is pretty hard too. So I love doing interviews, and thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. So, all right. Well, I will see you probably in chat. Though chat's probably going to move too fast for me to say hello. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.